welcome to episode 289 of Cinematary. I'm your host, Zach Dennis, and I'm here with
Ash Baker.
But let's go ahead and jump into our, we've part one, we're going to be talking about movies we saw this week, and then part two, we'll be continuing our Intro to Avant-Garde series with Structure and Psychedelia. But let's go ahead and jump into movies that we saw this week. Ash, you caught a big time cinema classic. It's also one that we've hit on in this podcast, but I'll be curious to get your thoughts and feelings about Man with a Movie Camera.
Yeah, I saw Man with a Movie Camera this past week. It's came out in 1929. It's sort of it's an avant-garde silent film, and it's totally wild, but I sort of, while a lot of avant-garde films don't really have, or a lot of them don't, fall into the narrative category, or a lot of them don't follow a particular narrative. I felt like this one sort of did in a way, while it doesn't, we don't have a character necessarily, except the man with a movie camera. We're just sort of following him looking at stuff with the camera, and we're sort of, he sort of gives us all these different images that sort of make a story, and eventually he sort of breaks the wall of what we're seeing and shows the movie being made and edited and things like that, which is really wild. But it's a really interesting movie. There are lots of really short takes, or not necessarily short takes, but just takes that have been cut and edited into really tiny little clips, and a lot of shocking images. I was rather horrified to see a baby being rocketed out of the womb at some point, but
things are different in Russia, so
just casually just shooting out, really gross, but really interesting movie, really also just sort of wonderful in moments, visually I think very pleasurable, and then also very stressful in moments. This was a very interesting experience, all in all.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and we can talk about it a little bit since we're on the episode where we're going to talk, or at least we've in this series we've been talking more at length about avant-garde cinema, which I think Man with a Movie Camera has definitely has elements of. It's something that I think has elements of a couple movies in the series that we talked about last week, such as Manhattan, where there's kind of this. It kind of has that symphony of a city type vibe to it. But it's funny that we talked about that movie in our short series on documentaries, and kind of looked at it more as kind of a in a more documentarian context, looking at that period of history, as well as what people were doing with movies. And Dziga Vertov, who directed it, really has this the way that it moves around the city, and the way he's interacting with the city in that kind of context. It's strange. It's much more engaged than something like Manhattan, where it's more of that one is much more kind of bird's eye. You're a little bit detached from the actual city, and it's kind of almost, you have this kind of God omnipresent quality to it, where you're just kind of looking down and kind of observing it. But Man with a Movie Camera is very is very much, it's very kinetic. You're very much in like the life of the city, and that makes it, at least to me, that it's much more interesting because it feels like it almost feels like you're like running through the veins of that place throughout the course of the movie.
Yeah, and it's sort of like sorry, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Ridiculous. Oh yeah, just the documentary elements. It's like, there are moments where, there are these really sort of wild images, and like from a film from 1929, it feels like you're like, ooh, like, this is like crazy experimental, just because you wouldn't imagine people like filming something like that at 1929. But then you remember, oh, like the concept of a guy just kind of walking around with a camera, and you're like, well, yeah, of course he would kind of take this shot or whatever, because he's just sort of walking around with a camera, and of course he's going to get bored and like wave the camera around and get it really close to people's faces, or do sort of weird stuff with it. And the real sort of magic of this movie's in the editing, which is done by the filmmaker's wife, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's sort of just like really taken what, I guess he got just sort of walking around documenting whatever he saw, and chopping it up into something that not only makes sense and doesn't make sense at the same time, but also is just like really aesthetically pleasing and infuriating and effective.
Yeah. It's one, especially with like the movies that we're talking about in this Avant-Garde series, it's one that like we've talked about, it's very much, I think, in that category. I wouldn't even look at it as like a fringe. I think it definitely has a lot of avant-garde elements to it. And so if you're kind of picking and choosing, just trying out a couple of the movies we're talking about, even though this isn't in the series, I would say include this one as one too. It's kind of one of those, if you like movies, you should watch it at least once, just to kind of, it's one of those rite of passage movies, I feel like. So is it on like YouTube? Okay, I think I would say it's relatively accessible. I don't know, I guess I could look, but that would be too much work, guys. Yeah, it looks like you can check it out on All Soviet Movies on YouTube. That is the channel. So yeah, you can find it there. Moving on, I caught a couple movies. One is technically it's a festival release from last year that is starting to crawl in the theaters this year. But first, I want to talk about an older movie. This director, he has a new one coming out this year. I caught it at TIFF. But his movie Shoplifters, this is the director Hirokazu Koreeda. His movie Shoplifters, I kind of feel like was a little bit like little Parasite before Parasite. It's dealing with kind of similar class and family structures, at the same time, vastly different, moods and vibes between the two movies. But I think there is a little bit of a kinship in terms of what their directors are going for. But this one is an earlier movie by Koreeda. The one that's coming out this year actually is The Truth. It stars Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche and Ethan Hawke. It's his first his non-Japanese film. It's this one set in French and deals with a lot of French and English actors, but I can see kind of inklings of this movie in those two movies for sure. This one is Still Walking from 2008, and it takes place 12 years after the eldest son in the family has drowned while saving a stranger's life. And so the kids and their respective families are coming home to see the father and the mother, and just kind of have like a small family reunion for the day, to kind of celebrate and commemorate their late brother. But of course, there's a lot of baggage and a lot of unsaid and sometimes said things between the different members. You have the younger son, who younger than the son who died, Ryota, who kind of feels like his he has this feeling that his parents resent him because his brother, who he in his opinion they liked a lot more, died, and he's still alive, and he also feels like they don't have much respect or admiration for the career path that he has taken, or the fact that he has married this woman, Yukari, who is a widow herself, and already has a kind of, but 7 to 9 year old son with her, and so he's kind of entered this family, and so he feels like his parents kind of look down on that. And then you also have Ryota's sister, who is there with her husband, and her name is Chanami, and she's there with her husband and her kids, and they're kind of a very typical family. They have a number of kids. The husband's kind of a goofy guy. They seem to be kind of she seems to be a little bit more upfront, on top of just the dynamics between the different family members, because you have the mom, who is very grandmotherly, is very warm, and kind of enjoys doing typical grandmother things of like cooking food for people and getting them stuff, and getting away with just saying stuff to the different kids and family members that you just kind of you let go because she's the grandma. But who also kind of has this melancholy side to her when it comes to the subject of her oldest son who died. And then you also have the father, who was a longtime doctor, was kind of the community doctor, takes great pride in that profession, but kind of found his way out because of declining eyesight, as well as just just urbanization bringing a lot more things to the town than it used to have, and so a hospital came in place, and the need for a community doctor was kind of dwindling at the same time as his eyesight, and so he spends most of his days taking a casual walk through through his neighborhood, and then coming back, and he spends a lot of the movie. I mean, you have all of these different family members here in this household, and for the most part they stay in the house. I saw a lot of people on Letterboxd and just in writing kind of very much calling this Korieda's Ozu movie, and in terms of like understanding the architecture and layout, and knowing where people are at a given time within the house. Korieda really does kind of has a knack for adding those Ozu elements to it. But yeah, you kind of have this the mother character who's there just kind of being a grandmother, fighting off the daughter, who seems to be kind of pushing for her and her family to come live with them to kind of help take care of them. And then you have this son who clearly doesn't keep in touch with them as much as they would like him to, and kind of has this fractured relationship with both his mom and his dad. And you definitely get those kind of Ozu elements of these kind of emotions and these resentments and these points that the various members are holding on to, that are just kind of bubbling under the surface. The thing that I find so, I don't think that this has the intergenerational insight or texture that an Ozu movie does. Ozu's movies, especially the great ones, really have this reverence and this empathy for the various places that the different generations are at, and so you can kind of understand the point of the oldest character to the middle character to the youngest character, and why they may be coming at some point or some issue in the way that they are, because it's always highly influenced from their generation and how they were brought up. Especially, you look at stuff like Tokyo Story and things of that, and that kind of post-war Japan really plays into it. In this one, I find there's a little bit of it, but it kind of lacks the nuance of some of the great Ozus. But it also kind of has this wonderful melancholy, beautifully contained story that I love, that it keeps itself very much contained to this household, to this kind of group of characters. I mean, the entire runtime, it's pretty much you're just spending the day, the evening, and then the next morning with these members, and I found it really moving, really beautiful. I think between this and something even more recent like a Columbus, which has those kind of Ozu elements to it, it's nice to see that there is some directors are like unable to understand like what is powerful about his filmmaking out, and kind of bring it to the modern age, because I think that you can definitely just understanding that kind of intergenerational text is key to understanding what's effective about Ozu. So I would recommend for people who are kind of interested in this quiet family melodrama, kind of fans of quiet family melodramas, kind of those simmering past issues and emotions that are kind of just that they don't ever bubble up into like a giant outburst. You're not going to get like that Oscar scene where it's the clip of the person yelling at the other person. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get the Marriage Story meme with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson yelling at each other, because this is a good movie. And so this I don't know, I was thinking about that, like for me this is much more effective because I find it much more interesting when it's like all of this kind of bubbling stuff that it's always sitting there just like popping, and you think that it's just going to simmer over and completely turn into this just insane sequence, but it never really does. Like, and you like it, you never, it's like nobody ever gets to say the thing that they want to say, whether that's positive or negative. It's just like they're unable, that inability for communication is just constantly suffocating them, and I like that. I don't know what that says about me, but I hope I apologize to people in my life who have to deal with that seems to suck, but yeah, I don't know. I'm still walking. It's on the Criterion channel right now if you'd like to check it out. Yeah, it's good stuff. I would recommend checking out Corietis. If you didn't see Shoplifters, which I think is fine, I like this a lot better, or The Truth, which comes out this year, I would recommend seeing his movies. The other movie I want to talk about real quickly is Corpus Christi. It's by the director Jan Komasa, and it's a Polish film. It premiered at TIFF. I wanted to go see it there and was unable to. I saw it a couple weeks back, though, and I think it's kind of crawling out slowly into New York, LA, and kind of wide release. But pretty much the story of this is it follows this 20-year-old named Daniel who kind of begins to find get into spirituality and Christianity while he's living in this youth detention center. But he kind of befriends the priest who works with the boys there. But when he leaves, he kind of mentions to the priest, like, I would like to continue to follow this path once I leave. And the priest is like, I mean, that's it's wonderful that you have faith, but it's going to be impossible to like become a priest because of your criminal record. And so Daniel's left. having to find work in other places, and so he's sent to this workshop in this small town to get a job there and just kind of get back into the workforce. But when he gets there, he bails on going to the workshop and ends up inside the local church. And inside the local church, he kind of hoodwinks himself in there and tells them that he is a traveling priest. And so the priest who is there kind of takes a liking to him and has him just kind of there under his wing for a few days. And then the head priest suffers some health issues and is like, all right, well, can you take over for the parish for me for for a little while? And so the rest of the movie is Daniel kind of just really leaning into like what drew him to what drew him to like spirituality, but also like his interpretation of it from just the past that he's had compared to the much more traditional seminary based kind of storytelling that the head priest and other people that he's come in contact with have. And he also uses that as kind of this opportunity to help a local the local community there, who had recently kind of heal after suffering this tragedy where a drunk driver ran into this car of a bunch of kind of younger people in the community, killing everybody involved. And the mothers and fathers of those kids come, and they have like a little shrine near the church, and they go and pray and hold candles each night. And pretty much the entire community has ostracized the woman who was married to the drunk driver. And he takes that upon himself to kind of try to bridge that gap as well. And so I think it's a really interesting kind of, I would say, like a companion piece to something of like kind of First Reformed. It kind of has that.
You have me there. I'm interested.
It doesn't. I mean, I'll admit it does not have the whole climate change subplot that First Reform has, but it kind of has like the wolf in sheep's clothing type thing. I mean, the interesting thing about this movie is that the entire time he's like involved in running the parish, you never really see him as like he's there. At least for me, I never saw him there as like infecting this spiritual base. Like instead, like I said before, it's like he kind of took his slant on spirituality and presented the stories in that fashion, and it seemed to respond. And so when the kind of the third act of the movie happens, I don't want to get too deep because I would recommend people go and check it out. But when the third act happens and people from his past start to kind of clue in on what's happened with him and where he's at, I think that there is a little bit of like a tug of war, like for you, the viewer, because on one end you're like, yeah, he shouldn't be doing this because he kind of, hoodwinked his way in here. He did it under false pretenses. But at the same time, there's something much more like vivid and true about the way he's presenting his faith compared to the much more by the book seminary based education that he's kind of run into, and everybody seems to kind of respond to it. And he kind of he's found this base for himself. And the thing I was thinking about is that he opens the movie kind of within this system. He's stuck within this, the juvenile detention system, the prison complex. He's kind of just stuck in that wheel. And then when he makes the choice to kind of follow this spiritual path, and even though he kind of cons his way into it, like he enters this new system that kind of begins to refresh him. And then again, without spoiling too much, that early system kind of finds its way in. And it's to me, the thing I was left thinking about was how we he very much was just a product of what the environment was feeding to him. Like he clearly had this way to connect with others and to find a path that was much more fulfilling than the course that he was taking when you first met him at the beginning of the movie. But unfortunately, like because of whatever choices and whatever mistakes he made early on or whatever he fell into. It's his. I mean, at the age of 20, he's like written off for the rest of his life, and rather than being like a much more cookie cutter by the books like prison story, I found this one to be really compelling. But yeah, Corpus Christi, I would recommend. If it plays in your area, it'll probably be streaming and such at some point, but I would recommend checking it out. It's a good movie. Cool. We're going to take a short break, and then we will be back in part 2 talking structure and psychedelia after this. Hello, Cinematary. This is Zach, your host, and I'm going to use this midpoint in this week's episode to let you know a little bit about what's happening on both the website and the podcast. So first off, I know for a very long time we asked you not to give us any money. Well, things have changed. We want that money. I'm just kidding. We just want like $5 a month for the rest of your life. But we're doing a Patreon, and I promise this is all in good fun. Patreon.com/cinematary. I'm sure you've heard us mention it at the end of the episode. We are doing this in order to pay for our writing that is happening on the website. We have a wonderful breadth of writers who are all giving a lot of time and effort to come up with reviews and share their thoughts on the website, and so we wanted to just give back to them in that way. And so that is why we created our Patreon page. So again, for $5 a month, you can get exclusive content from the staff. Right now we have our hit series Film Theory and Chill, which takes a piece of film theory each month and then deconstructs it in a way that makes it a little bit more accessible. And then we end that episode usually with just us rambling about whatever is on our mind at that period of time. It's for some people, I guess. But you can find that on patreon.com/cinematary. Please consider, making that donation each month just to help show these writers your appreciation for what they do. Another easy way to kind of keep up with what's happening on Cinematary is signing up for our free newsletter. So if you missed an episode, if you weren't paying attention to social media and you missed maybe a review or something, or a video essay or something that we posted, this is an easy way to keep up with all of that. So each Sunday we send out a note. It goes straight to your inbox. It gives you the latest podcast episodes, what's happening on the Patreon page, and the last 2 reviews that are on cinematary.com. This is a great way to keep up with what's happening, and it's a nice way if you forget to go, oh, hey, I'm not, just chilling out on a Sunday. I'm having some coffee, doing Sunday things. Here, I'm going to check out what Andrew wrote about something, or what Nathan wrote about something. Just, we got that stuff going. So you can find that on the website, cinematary.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. Again, it's free. And finally, the easiest way to support this show is to go on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a rating and review. This is just how the algorithms work. I know every show asks you to do this, but honestly, if you could take 30 seconds to a minute and do this, it would greatly, help us. I mean, this helps us just as much as, signing up for the Patreon or letting people know on social media that you listen to Cinematary and you enjoy it. All of that stuff is very helpful. So give us a rating or review on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to the podcast, and share it on social media. Let people know that Cinematary is around. So again, consider donating to Patreon. That's patreon.com/cinematary. Sign up for the free newsletter, and then give us a rating and review on your podcaster app. Well, that is way too much of me talking. You're about to hear more of me talking, so I apologize in advance, but thank you for listening, and let's get back to the show. And we are back with part 2 of episode 289 of Cinematary. In this part, we will be continuing our Intro to Avant-Garde series with Structure and Psychedelia. Quickly to start out, though, Ash, this is your first episode on the series, and so I'm curious, just before we dig into the different films, what's your experience with avant-garde cinema, and are you pro or are you a skeptic?
I'm definitely pro. I'm pro avant-garde. In undergrad, I was sort of exposed to avant-garde in an intro to film class, and was really drawn to structuralist films by particularly Hollis Frampton and Sue Friedrich were two of my favorite filmmakers right off the bat. And I didn't do a ton of digging or searching in avant-garde after that, but just whenever I stumbled upon something, I've always tended to at least be interested in the genre. Are we calling it a genre? Is avant-garde a genre? Or is it a style? Have we talked about that?
I don't know if we've talked about that. I kind of view it as I think it's a little of both.
Yeah, because I think they're, they're quote unquote plain old narrative films that are just have elements of avant-garde, but then they're straight up avant-garde films. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess it could go either way, but I tend to like weird stuff and things that that are off the wall, or just thinking about film, or just like the film and video medium in a different way than the typical 3-act narrative structure. So yeah, definitely pro. And I've seen a bit of avant-garde films, and I had seen Black Ice and Lemon before. Those were the two that I had seen, but the others for this week I had not experienced, so I was glad to get to see them.
Yeah. Well, I think the first one that we'll talk about is one that kind of contains a thought line that I've been kind of simmering on throughout this series. The first one is called A Movie, which came out in 1958, and it's directed by Bruce Conner, and there's absolutely no way you could not know any of that, because it says A Movie by Bruce Conner so many times to like kick off the movie. It's kind of entertaining. It's like a child made a movie by themselves, and they're just really proud of it. But what I was thinking about with A Movie, it's very much in line with things that we've talked about in both of the previous episodes, and it's that kind of marriage of score or music and voice with the images on screen, and especially this one where it's like the pairing of Pines of Rome with the images on screen, which is just kind of this random found footage that Connor has compiled together. But it's something that we've talked about a little bit throughout the 2 episodes we've done in the series so far, where you have this marriage of sound and image, but the style of avant-garde kind of allows you to distort and play with that, where we have something much more traditional in like the toccata and fugue sequence of Fantasia that we talked about in the first episode. This one was really interesting because this is strangely enough, another piece that is used in Fantasia, Pines of Rome, but in this one, the thing I was thinking about was how we use music to and this is something I got into in my video essay on Beethoven, but it's like how we use music to influence like the actions on screen and like our feelings in relation to what's happening on screen, because this one, for a little bit of the start time, it kind of adds like the flow of the music, the vivacity of the music, like what it's trying to accomplish, seems in line with what's being shown on screen. And then Connor kind of starts to twist that, and you have like this jovial, playful, kind of fanfare-esque music that is lots of parts of Pines of Rome, but with images that really do not align with that. And so it's sitting there kind of manipulating you as the viewer and how you're like reacting to what's on screen compared to what you're hearing. And so it's something that we talked about in terms of like engaging with like kind of those senses and how we're watching those two interact together. But Ash, what did you make of A Movie? I mean, did you catch any of that kind of weird what the music's doing and what the images are doing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my first impression was like, wow, the name is not going away. For a while we get
he's very proud
the name Bruce Connor for about 30 seconds before we move on, and then it says a movie, and then Bruce Connor again, and so that was an interesting just a moment right off the bat. But yeah, the music, it's interesting because it's like, I don't know, I'm not really a classic music person, but it sort of reminded me of like, I don't know, like classical Hollywood, like Peter Pan or something like that. Maybe I'm completely not having the right connotation for Pines of Rome, but it was sort of interesting to see like we get like images from like softcore porn like right off the bat, and so this like sort of like triumphant music like on top of that, and like it made more sense when we get to like horses running through a field and things like that, but some of the images were I don't know, it didn't quite connect, but it was nonetheless entertaining. I think I was more, rather than the music, I was more focused on the images themselves and the way that they were interrupted by the title cards throughout, because we get not only that introduction of Bruce Connor, a movie by Bruce Connor, in the beginning, but we are constantly reminded throughout, and we're interrupted throughout by movie, just a title card that says movie. And sometimes it's upside down, and sometimes, there's other, random stuff, but, it's like constantly movie, Bruce Connor. And that was sort of intriguing to me, is like, I didn't really see it as much as like, oh, this is like a kid who's just really proud of what he's made, although that is also a very funny interpretation. But I sort of saw it as like, I don't know, like authorial intent or something. Maybe he was making a comment on this, on the way that directors weave themselves through movies, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. Maybe he is just really proud of what he's made. But that was an interesting thing for me.
Yeah, it reminded me, I'm trying to think if it's I think it was this one. I'm trying to look at the other ones that we watched. Yeah, it was this one. This one reminded me a little bit of the from last week, the Rose Hobart short by Joseph Cornell, which I don't know if you've seen that one, Ash, but it's like they've taken sequences from a movie that Rose Hobart's in, but completely cut out like the entire most of the narrative, and it's just like the scenes where she's in. And it's kind of like this strange surreal element where you're watching this movie where you're losing so many elements of like the plot or what's happening, and you're just focused on this one figure. And I kind of got that sense there where it was like you were catching moments of something, but like you said, you're cut away to like a title card, or you're cut to some other piece of footage, and because the footage is so fragmented and unaligned, it sometimes, like I'll say there's the cut where you have like the bomb dropping in the water, and you see the big kind of mushroom, and then it cuts into people like surfing on a wave, which is wonderful. And but it reminded me of that movie from last week, Rose Hobart, just because you kind of have like these fragmented moments, and that kind of keeps you it keeps you kind of, you know, knocked off a little bit. You're kind of, you know, unsure of like where you are at times, just because of the way it cuts, the way it moves to text, and how it never feels like you're fully like inside whatever the footage is showing you. Yeah, and I guess let's go ahead and move on to the second film. And I'm letting you to
Notes on a Circus. The filmmaker is Jonas Mekas. Is it Mekas?
That's your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. But it came out in 1966. It's a very interesting sort of, I would call this one psychedelia, if we're putting these in either structural or psychedelic categories. This one's very like, it's it seems like very much like Notes, or like a highlight reel almost. He seems to have like filmed different events at a circus and put them in editing, sort of, you know, cutting certain bits out and making the result sort of like very like jagged. And he's put like different speeds on the different clips, and I don't know.
It's like continuously like speeding up, and
yeah.
After a while, you kind of like lose sense of like where you're at. It's kind of crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's wild. It's there's really no sort of narrative to follow other than it just being like a sort of visual trip, and it's really pleasing to watch. And I don't know if, I'm watching it on YouTube. I don't know if this music is like original for the film. If it is, that's super interesting to me. But yeah, what did you think about, do you know if the music is original or not?
Well, yes. It doesn't seem like it's original. It seems kind of like the almost like canned, at least the second half, because this is interesting compared to a movie, which a movie I forgot to mention it before, but the other thing I was thinking about in terms of like the music and the image was that you have also, we've talked about it with a lot of, pretty much all of the films that have kind of, you know, had these kind of sound and image qualities to it, where most of the time, pretty much the entire time that from the series so far, we've seen it where it's not like spoken word in the music. You know, it's something, you know, it might be some jazz, it might be ambient, it might be classical. In this one, you have like a sung song to kind of kick it off. And so for that first little bit, you have that song playing, and you kind of have a more traditional of like image clips, and the song kind of providing like your emotional path, and you're following along with it. And then it shifts into these kind of more like circus merry-go-round. I don't know what the best way to describe, you know, this like kind of music that you put put as like circus music, without going into like the dun 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 dun. I guess there's kind of a reference point, but that kind of jazzy type music, and that's what,
I see.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't really sort of hear it as like circus music. It was almost like, I don't know, like saloon music.
That's a good way of describing it as well. Yeah.
I mean, until we get into like the end part, and then it's almost like, it's still almost like ragtime, but it's like just sort of sillier. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a really interesting choice to me, I guess.
Well, to me, it was interesting, just like how I would like to see. I don't know if we get it in this series, but I would like to see like a spoken word song, like, it's sung with like avant-garde images, because like I said, whenever that song's playing, it's pretty traditional. There's nothing too it's not playing with anything as much, but then, like you said, once the ragtime saloon type music plays, it starts to kind of ramp up and speed up. But I don't know, to me it was interesting, like how like is maybe there, and this is something that people can write in, or I'm sure the two curators of the series, Andrew and Nathan, could tell us, but I don't know, is there like avant-garde films that kind of have spoken word songs with the kind of with those frayed images? To me, that would be kind of that would be really strange and interesting to take in.
Yeah, and this one sort of reminded me again of like Man with a Movie Camera, just sort of like the documentarian style where, you're just filming something and then just like really screwing around with it once you get into the editing room, and it's like, that's where it really becomes, majorly experimental. Yeah, it's, I really dig that sort of style, I think, because what's happening is really wild, I've never been to a circus. It's like elephants and stuff.
Yeah. And like it kind of just like becomes like the worst nightmare really for like a circus, right? Because like you said, it's speeding up and everything's kind of like meshing together, and you're not really sure what you're watching, but you still like see image, like people and bodies like flying through the air, and it's kind of, it becomes almost like a horror movie. You can really like lean into it.
I want to even say like I don't know, like the music choice makes it pleasurable and like almost, I mean, the film was made in 1966, but I don't know, like, this would kind of be a nightmare if the music choice were different, but because it's like this, I don't know, the name of the, that old cowboy singer guy, Jimmy, what's his face?
Jimmy, what's his face?
You know who I'm talking. Jimmy Rogers. It's like Jimmy Rogers style, like old cowboy music. You know what I mean? So it's like, it just feels like nostalgic and like happy. Whereas like, this would have a completely different mood if it were like, like the soundtrack to, Outer Space or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know. This one didn't work for me as much. But anyway, moving on to our third movie in this episode, we have Lemon, which comes from Hollis Frampton in 1969. And I mean, this gives you what you're getting, there's no nuance to the old, there might be, I don't know, maybe I'm missing, but to me there's a
little bit of nuance.
There wasn't much, it's pretty straightforward. There is a light that, for lack of a better phrase, you get to watch the eclipse of a lemon. That's pretty much what happens. personally, I love the most popular review on Letterboxd, which is a person could accuse this film of many things, but false advertising isn't one of them. Because yeah, I mean, it gives you what you want. Ash, I'll be curious to hear your thoughts on this, but for me, I mean, it's fine, so be it. But this seems to be like the quintessential, like this would be the touchstone that people who like despise or are skeptical or think avant-garde cinema is stupid, like this would be the touchstone one to go, this is why this is stupid. So I'm curious to hear what you made of it.
Yeah, I actually watched this with some friends, which was interesting. I was at a different place when I watched this one than when I watched the rest of them. I'd seen this for the first time a long time ago, sort of when I was first discovering Hollis Frampton and the others. And I kind of had this reaction where I was like, well, it's a lemon. It said it was a lemon, and well, it was indeed a lemon. But this time around it was kind of interesting because the folks who I watched it with, one of them had no experience with avant-garde, and a couple of them had just, sort of minimal experience with avant-garde. And, I was like, well, we're going to watch this movie. It's 7 minutes long. It's called Lemon. And I just put it on. And and my friend who had no experience with avant-garde was like, getting really impatient, like, what are we watching? It's a lemon. Okay, we get it. It's a lemon. But my two other friends were like, wait, is the light moving or is the lemon moving? We're just like more interested in like, what was happening. And with the lemon, we're like, oh, it's getting brighter, just like following the journey of the lemon. So it was kind of fun to watch it with some other people who had no idea what was going on. But yeah, I mean, I could see how, my friend would get really impatient with this movie and be like, yeah, well, it's just a lemon. But at the same time, I thought it was kind of fun to watch, just watching a lemon make it's like the life of a lemon, making its rotation around the sun, or is the sun rotating around the lemon? Who knows? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting, I think, that like how you describe that experience, because yeah, like on one end you have the person who's just like, what the hell is this? It's just a lemon, blah blah, like but at the same time you have you have the other side where it's like, well, is the light moving or the lemon moving? And like, to me, again, like that's, at the end of the day, that seems to be like a microcosm of this is kind of this is experience with avant-garde cinema. All of these all of these reactions are fine. Like you're open to every interpretation, and that's kind of the interesting fold of this genre style, whatever we want to narrow it down to. But I don't know, to me that's really cool that was the experience, because for even the person who had never seen it, you can be like, yeah, I mean, that's what's wonderful. You have this, you can react in any way, that it kind of opens up the space for you to just kind of interpret and come up with random stuff. Like, that's the point. So that's cool. I don't know, that's more interesting than anything I got out of the movie. So
if you're looking for a lemon, you should watch it.
There you go. It's on it's available on YouTube if you've never seen a lemon. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to be introduced. Who knows? Who knows? All right, Ash, you got our next one.
Yeah, 3 Transitions. I really liked this one. This one is really wild. It was made by Peter Campus in 1973, and it is exactly as Lemon is. It is exactly what it says. It is 3 transitions, but in a different way. Transitions can mean a lot of things, and this is sort of what's left up to interpretation. So basically, in the first transition, we see this strange sort of optical illusion almost, or like movie magic camera illusion, a camera trick that Pierre Campos is doing, where he seems to like walk in front of this yellow screen, cut it open, which you see like the knife cut down his jacket on his back, and then he crawls through the hole. It's really sort of hard to describe just saying it. But basically, he's I think he's got like a camera on each side, is I think how he's doing it. But anyway, and then he's like double exposing the images on top of each other. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what it. Yeah, I think he just filmed it. He filmed it one way, and then he filmed it another way, and then double exposure the two on top of each other.
Yeah, that seems to be what's happening there. And,
we need Miranda here.
Yeah.
Miranda, weigh in.
Yeah, and then the second go round, what's happening is he's rubbing this balm or something all over his face. I want to think that it's like...
This one's gnarly.
Yeah, this one is gnarly. I love this one, though. I think the thing that I love the most about 3 Transitions is I'm just like, how is he doing it? It's sort of like, it's really sort of a movie magic type of little thing.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I was thinking of. Like it's like a total callback to like early movies, like Edison Shorts, Méliès, like it's just all of this. Like I don't know what this is. It's not a story or anything. I don't care. It's just cool, and I can do it.
Yeah, it gives me like especially this second one where he's rubbing this balm on his face, and what's happening is you can see through his face, and what's behind his face is his face. And I don't know how else to explain that, but please go watch it. But it's sort of like, it makes me think of like these cringy surrealist memes, is what it makes me think of. So if you're into like surrealist meme bots on Twitter or Instagram, definitely watch this short, because it is frightening and abject, and I love it. And then the third transition is, I think sort of falls flat in comparison to the first two, but basically he lights a moving image on fire, which the moving image is him. It's his face. And then he just watches it burn, which is interesting. But I think the first two were sort of shocking to watch. So, yeah, this was a really great one for me.
Yeah, no, I really like this one as well. This was one of my favorites of this group, just because, again, like it definitely has elements of avant-garde and just kind of like you were describing, just the surreal elements of like the balm and his face behind his face, and like this the strangeness of it. But it also, like I said, it kind of has like this callback to early movies where it was just taking the images at hand and like manipulating them to do magic. I like that it kind of had that whimsy to it, and so yeah, I would recommend people check this one out.
Yeah, it was sort of refreshing to see this. This came out in the 70s, and he's doing stuff that like I don't understand in 2020, which is really wild. That it sort of had this like really exciting quality that was like, not only is it like a cinema of attraction, but it's also like he's doing something just like weird and mystical and magical, and it was in the 70s, and now it's like we should know what he's doing to his face, when he's sticking this balm on there. Like, this should be like, we should know, but we don't, and it's still weird, and I love it.
It also just his face and like it reminded me of something from like
the performance is killer.
Yeah, it reminded me of like some Tim and Eric thing as well. Like that's kind of that's what I was relating it to the most.
Yeah, he has a very straight face throughout.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next one is Pixelation. This one is from 1970 by Lillian Schwartz. It's only about 4 minutes long, and it's pretty much just all of these kind of computer animations that are just the different fragments and fixtures of computer animation all kind of swelled together. It's very much in tune with the another one that we're or the next two that we're gonna talk about for sure after this one, where it's just kind of it's very much in the experience realm. I think the very easy shorthand to kind of give people who have not experienced these an idea of is like the Stargate sequence from 2001, where you just kind of have these images and fragments and things all kind of crossing your, like, almost like approaching you to an extent, because it's just everything's moving around, and you're almost supposed to have kind of this high quality from it. I like this one well enough. I didn't respond to it quite as much as I thought I would. I was kind of excited to watch this. It reminded me also of the sequence early in Michael Mann's Black Hat, where you like go like through the chords of the internet, which is insane, which is just like this wonderful sequence. It seemed like a precursor to that, where that's more what it felt like. It felt like you were like going through this universe, but it was all in like the universe of this man-made computer, which was strange and surreal. What did you make of it?
Well, it is like there's pixels, obviously, and it's like there are a lot of computer elements, but there's also like some of the clips have like a liquid element or like a microscopic element. I feel like I'm looking at, substances under a microscope moving around, or like a lava lamp really close up. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's all red, the liquids are, and so I almost felt like not only am I moving through a computer, but I also kind of got vibes like the beginning of Uncut Gems. So I'm moving through Adam Sandler's colon or something. But so that was sort of interesting for me, like almost like it was sort of comparing the body to the inside of a computer, because it did feel very much like insides, like guts and blood, because of the colors and just the way that it's all like very close up, and you don't really have any context for what these substances are, and then they transition so abruptly into like computer pixels, sort of I don't know, it's just like the guts of everything. Man and machine.
Definitely. Let's move on to the next one, because me personally, I really responded to the next film in the series. Yeah, Liquid Crystals. You have it introduces it with like these title cards, kind of describing like the whole process, because you have like these shapes and colors that are coming from under a microscope, because you have everything is photographed under this polarized microscope, and they're all crystals, and this is very much like within the Uncut Gems, going through Adam Sandler's colon type things as well. because you have these crystals and they're like moving in a way that they almost look like you're looking within like a cell or something. Like they look like organisms that are kind of functioning and moving, and you have all of these just various shapes and colors and designs and patterns, and it's only like,
So are these actually, this is really stupid. Are these actually, I was sort of confused at what I was looking at in this one. I really had no idea. I thought liquid crystal was like a metaphor.
no, I think I'm pretty sure they're crystals and they're under like a microscope.
It's literally, okay.
Yeah, it's a crystal.
It looks like
they just
bugs. It looks like bugs and like silk sheets to me.
I don't know. You have like this electronic music by this French artist like playing. I don't know. I really vibed with this one. This was like peak.
The music is killer.
Yeah.
For sure. I just wasn't sure what I was looking at. I mean, it looks cool, but
This is definitely like one, like if you're gonna get high and then watch avant-garde cinema, like put this one on the list, because this.
I mean, as long as you know that it's crystals and not bugs, because I was kind of I was kind of freaked out. I was like, what are all these bugs doing on these silk sheets?
I don't know. Yeah, it's on the Criterion channel, so if you have access to that, you can watch it there. Our next one is was by a director that we've covered before on Cinematary, Stan Brakhage. We talked about Dog Star Man last year as part of our Young Critics series. This one, it's about 3 minutes long. It's called Black Ice. And it's inspired by a bad fall on a patch of black ice that resulted in Brakhage needing eye surgery. And so it's kind of this very similar to the last two, where it's just kind of these fragmented shapes and colors and images all kind of coming together in kind of a frantic manner. Like you can see like the inspiration of like somebody like falling down and like coming quickly to the earth, because there is kind of the speed to it that is kind of overpowering. I don't know. This one was short. So it was weird. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I liked it. I liked it well enough. What did you make of Black Ice?
Yeah, I've seen this one before, and I've always liked it. It's good to look at, but I think, it's sort of mesmerizing just because I feel like every time I watch it, I feel like I'm being pulled into the screen. Do you have this sensation when you watch it? I feel like there's an optical illusion happening.
Well, what's so is because again, going back to like the fact that it's like supposed to feel like this like bad fall, like it does. It kind of feels like you're being like there's like this pull to it, and that I guess that's kind of the allure of the film, is like it has like this kind of physical nature to it while it's this 2D thing.
It's definitely like, I find it very mesmerizing. I enjoy watching it, but again, like it's there's not really a lot to say about it, I don't think.
All right, well, why don't you take us home with the last one?
Outer Space. Yeah, this one's wild. So Outer Space is I could try and pronounce this guy's last name. Peter.
I think it's Peter Cherkasy.
Peter Cherkasy. It's really nightmarish. It's a nightmare. This is a nightmare film. It's also very widescreen, just like right off the bat. But it's really interesting. It has, unlike the rest of these shorts, it has a character in it. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. It kind of gave me like Meshes of the Afternoon inspired vibes. but we're in this house. The light is crazy. The way that I'm not sure like exactly like how this is being filmed, or it's almost like time is being screwed with a lot, and a lot is being done in editing. It's just like really visually wild, and definitely like nightmarish and frightening, and a lot of scary stuff happens, and the music certainly doesn't help, or does help depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah, this is definitely like the early version of, to an extent, of the what is it called, Light is Waiting, that we watched in the first episode, with where it's just kind of like this disintegration into like this extreme psychedelia. Yeah, this one was a lot. I don't know. This, like, I agree with you. It's almost like a horror film, because it also reminded me a little bit of the Rose Hobart movie, just because you have like these images, like you're clearly like watching a movie, but you're not watching like the movie in order. You're just getting like different parts of it, and then you're also like superimposing parts of it, so you're seeing like the scene play out in three different like right on top of each other. And it's kind of like, rather than like the expanse that you would expect from outer space, it's like everything that we know about whatever's happening has been condensed onto itself, and you're watching it in like all in this one condensed fashion. And that's just like, after a while you're just like, this is a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And just like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, just by the way it's shot from the beginning, you're like, wow, this isn't going to end well. But you know, just like watching this woman move through this house is really suspenseful, even though really not a lot happens necessarily for a while. But you know, just visually, it's interesting and frightening, and, you know, the music does a lot of work. But yeah, by the end, it's like really intense. You know, there's the bit where she's like just slamming, and you don't have a lot of context again for really anything that's happening, but she's just like hitting something really hard, and the way that it's cut, it looks like the person or thing that she's hitting is actually herself almost. It's really weird. I'm into it, but it's strange.
Yeah, I don't know. We should make Jessica watch this one. She really reacted in a succinct way to Light is Waiting, so I'm sure she would appreciate Outer Space as well.
Let's phone a friend.
Let's phone a friend. Cool. Well, I believe that will wrap up this episode of Cinematary. You can find us at facebook.com/Cinematary, at Twitter and Instagram at handle @Cinematary, and on letterboxd.com/Cinematary, where we post all the movies that we talked about in this episode. Also, big thanks to our patrons over on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Cinematary if you'd like to support the show and our wonderful group of writers. Thank you to Cam, Chad Newsom, Christina Daughtry, Cindy Roberts, Harry Eskin, Maggie, Matthew Lingo, Ron Hayes. Gosh, I'm so sorry again. 3 Eggs, Vishwanathan, Titus Arthur, Tyler Chandler, and Whitney Rio Ross. Thank you so much for your patronage. Head over to the site. We got reviews of Sorry We Missed You, the 2020 film by Ken Loach, as well as It's Complicated, the 2009 film by Nancy Myers. But then we also will be continuing our Intro to Avant-Garde series next week. We will be looking at 2 Michael Snow features. If you go to our Google Doc, which is in the show notes, both of these are available on YouTube. So if you'd like to check them out, you can do so ahead of time. But until next week, thank you for listening.